Good morning, dear listeners. Imagine a small town, bathed in the soft glow of a late summer sun, where the rhythm of life hums gently, until it doesn't. In Fairhaven, Georgia, a place where history lingers in the air like dust motes, a silver sedan pulls into the parking lot of the town hall. The car, weathered but proud, carries Eleanor Brooks, a 78-year-old black woman whose presence is as steady as the oak trees lining the square. Her hands, lined with the wisdom of decades, rest lightly on the steering wheel. She's not here to make a statement. She's here to wait, for her grandson, for a moment, for something only she understands. Her eyes, deep and unhurried, seem to see beyond the present, as if tracing the threads of a life that has weathered storms few could name. Across the lot, Officer Daniel Harper, 34, watches from his cruiser. His instincts, honed by years of patrolling Fairhaven's quiet streets, prickle at the sight of her stillness. She doesn't fidget, doesn't check her phone, doesn't glance at the building. To him, this is a signal: silence is suspicion, composure is concealment. He doesn't know her. He doesn't need to. His training tells him to act, to control, to assert. He steps out, his boots clicking against the pavement, each step a declaration of authority. He taps on her window, expecting compliance. Eleanor turns her head slowly, her expression calm but distant, as if she's seen this scene before. "Ma'am, roll the window down," he says, voice sharp with command. The window hums halfway, then stops. Her hand trembles slightly, not from fear, but from age. Harper's impatience grows. "All the way," he snaps. She tries again, but the window sticks. Her voice, soft and raspy, barely reaches him. "Waiting," she says. He leans closer, unable to hear, and his suspicion hardens into certainty. Harper's questions come faster now, about her license plates, her purpose, her identity. Federal tags on an old sedan raise his hackles. Why is she here? Why won't she answer clearly? Eleanor taps her ear gently, signaling her hearing loss, but he misreads it as defiance. The air thickens with his frustration. "People like you don't park here without a reason," he says, the word slicing through the morning quiet. The phrase isn't just a question, it's an accusation, heavy with history, sharp with bias. Eleanor meets his gaze, her eyes steady, unyielding, carrying the weight of a life that has faced such words before. She doesn't flinch, doesn't argue. Her silence is not surrender, it's strength, forged in decades of standing tall against storms. Harper steps back, his hand grazing his baton, his authority challenged by her calm. The moment teeters, fragile, on the edge of something irreversible. The crowd begins to gather, drawn by the rising tension. A young woman with a stroller pauses, her eyes narrowing. A man sipping coffee freezes mid-step. They sense it, the moment when justice hangs in the balance, when dignity is tested, when unity is either forged or fractured. Eleanor remains still, her hands folded, her posture a quiet rebuke to the chaos brewing around her. Harper's voice rises, demanding ID, demanding answers, but she offers none. Not because she refuses, but because she knows some questions aren't meant to be answered, they're meant to be exposed. The sun climbs higher, casting long shadows, and Fairhaven holds its breath, waiting for what comes next. The morning air in Fairhaven grows heavy, charged with the weight of unspoken histories. Officer Daniel Harper stands beside Eleanor Brooks' silver sedan, his baton now in hand, its steel glinting under the sun. He's no longer asking questions, he's issuing ultimatums. "You're in front of a government building, ma'am. This isn't a parking lot for waiting." His tone is sharp, laced with the kind of authority that expects obedience. Eleanor's response is a single word, "grandson," delivered with a quiet clarity that cuts through his noise. But Harper doesn't hear it, or chooses not to. Her calmness, her refusal to escalate, feels like a challenge to his control. He steps closer, his shadow falling across her window, and repeats, "Roll it down." "Now." Eleanor's hand moves slowly to the controls, her fingers trembling not from fear but from the arthritis that has settled into her joints. The window doesn't budge. Harper's patience snaps. He raises the baton, not as a threat but as a decision. The first strike lands with a dull thud against the windshield, cracking the glass into a spiderweb of fractures. The sound echoes across the lot, a violation of the morning's peace. Eleanor doesn't flinch. A shard catches her cheek, drawing a thin line of blood, bright against her dark skin. She touches it gently, not in pain but in recognition, as if the wound confirms a truth she's always known. The crowd gasps, phones emerging from pockets, capturing the moment in shaky frames. A teenage boy, 17-year-old Marcus Tate, starts recording, his lens steady despite the tremble in his hands. Harper strikes again, harder this time, and the windshield collapses inward, shards raining onto Eleanor's lap. Her lavender blouse, soft and elegant, catches the glass and the blood, a stark contrast of grace against violence. Still, she doesn't cry out. Her eyes, ancient and unyielding, fix on a point beyond Harper, beyond the crowd, beyond Fairhaven itself. It's not defiance, it's endurance, a quiet power that refuses to break. Harper's face twists, his rage fueled by her refusal to react. "You don't belong here," he hisses, the words spilling out like venom. He reaches for his radio, calling for backup, framing Eleanor as a threat, a suspect, a risk. The lie is smooth, practiced, but the crowd sees through it. A woman in a blazer steps forward, her phone recording, her voice steady. "This is public property. I'm allowed to film." Harper turns, his authority slipping, but he doesn't back down. The rain begins, soft at first, each drop a quiet protest against the violence below. It mingles with Eleanor's blood, streaking down her cheek, soaking into her blouse. The crowd grows, their murmurs rising into a chorus of disbelief. An older man, a veteran in a faded cap, shouts, "What are you doing to her?" His voice cracks with the weight of witnessing history repeat itself. Harper pushes him back, the baton still in hand, and the tension snaps tighter. Marcus keeps filming, his stream going live, the red circle pulsing like a heartbeat. The rain falls harder, blurring the scene, but not the truth. Eleanor's silence speaks louder than Harper's commands, louder than the crowd's outrage. It's a silence that demands justice, that upholds dignity, that calls for unity in a town fracturing under its own weight. The rain in Fairhaven falls steadily now, turning the pavement into a mirror of fractured light. Eleanor Brooks sits in her shattered car, her lavender blouse clinging to her shoulders, stained with blood and rain. Officer Daniel Harper stands over her, his baton still raised, his breath heavy with the effort of asserting control. The crowd around them swells, a mix of anger and disbelief, their phones capturing every moment. Marcus Tate, the teenager filming, zooms in on Eleanor's face, her calm, her blood, her unyielding presence. His stream reaches thousands, then tens of thousands, as the image of a woman wronged burns across screens. The rain doesn't wash away the truth, it amplifies it, each drop a testament to what Fairhaven has failed to see. Harper yanks open the car door, the hinges groaning under his force. He grabs Eleanor's arm, pulling her from the vehicle with a roughness that ignores her age, her dignity, her humanity. She moves slowly, not resisting, but not complying in the way he expects. Her steps are deliberate, her spine straight, as if she's walking through a memory rather than a moment. He pushes her against the hood of his cruiser, her palms pressing into the hot metal, her cheeks smearing blood across its surface. "You think you can ignore me?" he growls, his voice a mix of frustration and fear. Eleanor doesn't answer. Her silence is a mirror, reflecting his actions back to him, exposing the cracks in his authority. The crowd's voices rise, a mother's gasp, a man's curse, a child's question, but Eleanor remains still, her presence a quiet indictment. A female officer, Sergeant Lila Carter, steps forward, her face tight with unease. "Daniel, stop," she says, her voice low but firm. Harper waves her off, his eyes wild. "I've got this," he snaps, but his words lack conviction. The crowd's phones keep rolling, their lenses catching the rain, the blood, the moment when justice is not just denied but assaulted. Marcus's stream now carries a caption, "She's bleeding, and they don't care." The words ripple across the internet, igniting outrage, sparking questions. Who is she? Why is this happening? The rain soaks a folder in Eleanor's car, papers fluttering, one slipping to the ground, a laminated ID, its seal glinting under the water. No one notices it yet, but it lies there, a silent witness to a truth Harper cannot fathom. Eleanor's ring, gold and worn, catches the light as she steadies herself against the cruiser. It's not ornate, but it carries a symbol, an emblem of a life Harper didn't bother to understand. He sees it, but it only fuels his anger, not his curiosity. "What's that supposed to mean?" he demands, but she doesn't answer. Her silence is her power, her dignity a shield no baton can break. The crowd's anger grows, but so does their unity, a shared resolve to bear witness, to demand justice, to stand with a woman whose only crime was existing. As Harper cuffs her wrists, the rain falls harder, washing away nothing but revealing everything. Eleanor is led to the cruiser's back seat, her head bowed not in defeat, but in patience, knowing the truth will outlast the storm. The rain in Fairhaven, Georgia, now falls in sheets, turning the town hall parking lot into a stage where truth and power collide. Inside the back of Officer Daniel Harper's cruiser, Eleanor Brooks, 78, sits cuffed, her lavender blouse soaked, blood drying on her cheek. Her silence fills the vehicle, not with fear, but with a quiet strength that seems to hum louder than the storm outside. Harper stands by the cruiser, his radio crackling with backup calls, his face a mix of defiance and unease. He didn't expect this, the crowd, the cameras, the weight of a moment spiraling beyond his control. Marcus Tate, the 17-year-old filming, keeps his phone steady, his live stream now reaching thousands, each viewer a witness to a woman's dignity under assault. The crowd's voices swell, a chorus of outrage and disbelief. A veteran, Mr. Coleman, his cap sodden, shouts, "You're hurting her. She's no threat." Harper spins, baton still in hand, and barks, "Stay back. This is police business." But his words falter against the crowd's resolve. A woman in a blazer, Ms. Reynolds, records from the sidelines, her voice cutting through the rain, "This is public space. We see you." Harper steps toward her, looming, but she doesn't flinch. The rain blurs the lenses, but not the truth. Eleanor's laminated ID, fallen from her car, lies in a puddle, its diplomatic seal glinting faintly. No one sees it yet, but it waits, a silent testament to a life Harper dismissed. Inside the town hall, a clerk, Mr. Ellis, watches from a window, his face pale. He's seen stops before, but this is different, raw, wrong, irreversible. He slips into an office, phone in hand, and dials a number marked only with an initial. "They've got her in cuffs," he whispers. "They don't know who she is." The line goes dead, but the call sets wheels in motion far beyond Fairhaven. 80 miles away, at a quiet airfield, a black SUV rolls out, no plates, no markings. Its driver, gloved and silent, moves with purpose, the vehicle cutting through the rain like a blade through time. Back in Fairhaven, Harper's partner, Sergeant Lila Carter, tries again to intervene. "Daniel, this is too far," she says, but he waves her off, his eyes wild with the need to justify his actions. The internet ignites. Marcus's stream, captioned, "She's bleeding," spreads like wildfire. Hashtags bloom, hashtag purple justice, hashtag Fairhaven truth, each one a call for accountability. A freelance journalist finds an old photo, Eleanor, in a lavender scarf, standing behind a senator at a 2010 ethics summit. Her ring, the same one glinting in the rain, is unmistakable. Speculation erupts. Is she a retired official? A diplomat? The crowd in Fairhaven grows, their unity a quiet power. They don't riot, they stand, bearing witness, demanding justice for a woman whose only crime was her presence. Eleanor, in the cruiser, closes her eyes, not in defeat, but in patience, knowing the storm will pass, but the truth will remain. The rain in Fairhaven slows to a drizzle, but the tension in the precinct where Eleanor Brooks is taken is thick, electric. Inside a holding room, Eleanor sits, her wrists still cuffed, her lavender blouse damp but her posture unbowed. The precinct buzzes with unease, officers whisper, phones ring unanswered, monitors flicker with Marcus Tate's viral footage. Officer Daniel Harper sits in another room, his badge heavy on his chest, his confidence fraying. He tells himself he followed protocol, that Eleanor's silence was a threat, but the silence of his colleagues tells a different story. No one meets his eyes. No one offers backup. Outside, the world moves faster than Fairhaven's precinct can contain. Marcus's video, now shared millions of times, has sparked a movement. The hashtag Purple Justice trends globally, a symbol of Eleanor's dignity and the demand for accountability. A news anchor reads a breaking statement: the woman detained in Fairhaven is Eleanor Brooks, retired federal counsel for civil rights, former advisor to the 2011 Surveillance Oversight Committee, and mother of the U.S. Deputy Attorney General. The words land like thunder, shaking the precinct's walls. Harper hears it on a radio, his hands freezing mid-motion. He didn't know. He couldn't have known. But the truth doesn't care about his ignorance. The black SUV from the airfield arrives, its presence unnoticed by the precinct's cameras. A man in a black suit steps out, his badge a flash of silver, his authority absolute. He enters without announcement, his boots silent on the tile. The receptionist stammers, but he passes her, moving to the operations floor. Captain Ramsey, a 30-year veteran, steps aside without a word, recognizing a power beyond his rank. The man inserts a card into a terminal, and screens go dark, data rerouting to a federal vault. Officers stand frozen, sensing a shift they weren't trained for. The man speaks once, to Ramsey, who authorized the stop. Ramsey's reply, field discretion, hangs in the air, inadequate, exposed. Eleanor remains silent in her room, her blood dried on her cheek, her ring glinting under the fluorescent light. She doesn't ask for a lawyer or medical care. Her patience is a weapon, her dignity a shield. Outside, Fairhaven streets fill with purple, scarves, shirts, banners, a quiet march of unity. People don't shout, they stand, holding signs: "We saw her, justice for Eleanor." A 13-year-old girl, Sarah Jones, holds a sign: "You hurt the wrong woman." Her mother stands beside her, eyes wet but proud. The march isn't for vengeance, it's for memory, for a promise that Eleanor's pain won't be forgotten. In the precinct, Harper feels the walls closing in, not with force, but with the weight of a truth he can't outrun. Fairhaven's precinct is a shadow of itself, its hallways quiet, its officers scattered. Eleanor Brooks, still in holding, hasn't spoken since her arrest, but her silence speaks volumes. The world outside roars with her name, the hashtag Purple Justice a beacon of unity and demand for change. Officer Daniel Harper, isolated in an interview room, feels the absence of support. His colleagues avoid him, their silence a judgment louder than words. The man in the black suit, his badge a symbol of federal reach, has left, but his presence lingers, a reminder that consequences are coming. The media frenzy grows. A journalist uncovers a 2008 clip of Eleanor testifying at a closed-door hearing on surveillance ethics, her voice steady, her lavender scarf unmistakable. "Who watches the watchers?" she asked then, a question now echoing across newsrooms. Her ring, seen in the viral footage, is traced to a federal honor, sparking theories about her past. Was she a covert operative? A policy architect? The truth is simpler yet profound: she was a woman who shaped justice quietly, whose legacy was humility, not headlines. Her daughter, Deputy Attorney General Clara Brooks, issues a brief memo. My mother taught me silence is strength. I'm listening. The words, velvet-wrapped steel, signal a reckoning. In Fairhaven, the Purple March grows, a river of quiet defiance. A veteran speaks to a camera, Eleanor's why I came home whole, she saw me when no one else did. His words go viral, a testament to her unseen impact. Sarah Jones, the 13-year-old with the sign, testifies at a local hearing, her voice clear, I filmed it because I thought someone should care. Her words pierce the nation, a child's truth exposing adult failures. The precinct's walls crack under scrutiny. Leaked files reveal Captain Ramsey's history of dismissing complaints, his training manuals labeling historical grievances as threats. Officers resign, others transfer, the department hollowing out. Eleanor is offered a private room, not for interrogation, but for a conversation. Harper is brought in, uncuffed, unguarded. She looks at him, not with anger, but with clarity. Did you see me? She asks. Not my plates, not my silence, me. Harper stammers, I followed protocol. She nods, unflinching. Protocol saw a threat. You saw nothing. Her words aren't a verdict, they're a mirror, reflecting his failure to see her humanity. She leaves, her shawl dark as night, her dignity intact. Fairhaven watches, united in purple, knowing justice isn't a moment, it's a movement, born of one woman's unbreakable spirit. The drizzle in Fairhaven, Georgia, has stopped, but the town feels like it's drowning. The Fairhaven Police Department, once a pillar of local pride, is crumbling under the weight of its own failures. Captain Ramsey, the grizzled veteran who signed off on Officer Daniel Harper's actions, is gone, vanished overnight, his office cleared, his pension secured in some quiet deal no one dares admit. Whispers follow, he's in Florida, or Canada, or nowhere at all. His absence leaves a void, filled not with answers but with questions. Leaked emails, posted anonymously online, reveal his decades-long habit of dismissing complaints as grievances from the usual crowd. The words sting Fairhaven, exposing a truth the town avoided. Justice here was selective, and Eleanor Brooks was its latest casualty. Harper, now on unpaid leave, walks Fairhaven's streets like a ghost. Neighbors avoid his eyes, shopkeepers turn away. His wife, Emily, packs a suitcase, not for leaving, but for space, her silence louder than any argument. At a diner, a man mutters, "You shamed us all," and Harper's coffee grows cold. He tells himself he followed orders, that Eleanor's silence forced his hand, but the lie crumbles against the memory of her blood-streaked cheek. He sees her everywhere, in the purple scarves on passers-by, in the news ticker calling for reform, in the mirror of his own regret. He's not a villain, he thinks, just a man caught in a system. But the system is unraveling, and he's its frayed thread. Eleanor, now home in Atlanta, writes a letter to her daughter, Clara, the Deputy Attorney General. Stewardship, not vengeance, she urges, her handwriting steady despite her arthritis. Justice isn't a gavel, it's a garden, tended by many. Clara reads it at her desk, her eyes wet but resolute. She doesn't call for Harper's head, she calls for change, training, oversight, accountability. The Purple March, born in Fairhaven, spreads to cities nationwide. In Chicago, a teacher wears a lavender pin. In Seattle, a council passes a reform bill. In D.C., a senator quotes Eleanor, who watches the watchers. The movement isn't loud, it's deep, a quiet unity rooted in dignity, demanding a system that sees people, not threats. Fairhaven's town hall hosts a meeting, standing room only. Marcus Tate, the 17-year-old whose video sparked it all, speaks, his voice cracking but clear, "I filmed because I was scared she'd disappear." The crowd nods, purple bands on their wrists. A retired officer admits, "We were trained to control, not to listen." His confession breaks the dam, others speak, of quotas, of fear, of a culture that crushed compassion. The meeting doesn't end with answers, but with a promise, to rebuild, not repeat. Outside, a mural rises on a brick wall, Eleanor's silhouette, her ring glinting, purple light behind her. Fairhaven is fractured, but it's stirring, united by a truth it can't unsee. The nation's eyes are on Fairhaven, but the story of Eleanor Brooks is no longer just hers, it's America's. A televised panel on CNN, lit in soft studio light, dissects the case. A law professor argues, this wasn't one officer, it's a system blind to its own bias. A pundit counters, Harper's just a scapegoat for a tough job. The host asks, what's justice here, and the question hangs, unanswered, as viewers text purple heart emojis to their friends. Social media pulses with #PurpleJustice, not as a slogan, but as a mirror, forcing the country to see its reflection, flawed, divided, but capable of change. In D.C., 13-year-old Sarah Jones, whose sign read, "You hurt the wrong woman," testifies at a Senate hearing. Her voice, small but steady, fills the room. I saw her bleed, and no one helped. Why? Senators shift, uncomfortable, as cameras catch their silence. Sarah's words go viral, shared by mothers, teachers, veterans. She doesn't speak of laws, she speaks of right and wrong, her clarity a rebuke to adult excuses. Clara Brooks, watching from her office, opens Eleanor's letter again, stewardship, not vengeance. She announces a DOJ task force, not for headlines, but for reform, de-escalation training, bias audits, community boards. It's not a cure, but a step, rooted in Eleanor's quiet strength. Purple becomes a language. In New York, a bodega owner tapes a lavender ribbon to his door. In Houston, a church choir sings in purple robes, their hymn a prayer for unity. In L.A., a muralist paints Eleanor's face, her eyes gentle but fierce. The movement isn't about anger, it's about memory, a refusal to forget a woman whose dignity outshone her pain. Polls show a shift, 68% want police reform, up from 51%. A talk show host asks, is this a moment or a movement? A caller, a nurse from Ohio, answers, it's both. We're tired of watching people bleed. Her words echo Eleanor's silence, a call to see each other fully. Fairhaven struggles to keep up. The PD, gutted by resignations, hires a new chief, a black woman from Raleigh, her first act a public apology. We failed Eleanor Brooks, she says, and we failed you. The crowd, purple-clad, doesn't cheer, they nod, wary but willing to listen. A local paper prints an exposé, decades of ignored complaints, buried by Ramsey's regime. The town council votes to fund a civilian review board, named for Eleanor. Across the nation, her story sparks debates, not just about police, but about dignity, about who gets seen and who gets erased. America reflects, not in agreement, but in unity, bound by a truth that demands better. Daniel Harper's world is shrinking. In Fairhaven, he's a pariah, his name synonymous with a moment he can't undo. He sits in his backyard, the grass overgrown, his badge in a drawer. His son, 10, asks, why don't we go to the park anymore? Harper has no answer. Neighbors whisper, friends fade. He replays the stop, Eleanor's silence, her blood, her ring glinting like an accusation. He didn't mean to hurt her, he tells himself, but intent doesn't erase impact. He's not a monster, just a man who didn't see her, the crowd, the truth. The cost of his silence, his refusal to question protocol, is a life unmoored. The nation digs deeper. A whistleblower leaks Fairhaven PD's archives, reports of excessive force, racial profiling, complaints buried under Ramsey's watch. Names emerge, retired officers, some still local, their pensions secure despite their past. A podcast, The Purple Truth, traces Eleanor's case to systemic flaws, training that prioritizes control, cultures that reward loyalty over ethics. Listeners flood the show with stories, of stops, of fear, of silences that cost too much. Eleanor declines interviews, her voice absent but her impact deafening. She sends a note to Marcus Tate, "Your eyes saved mine." He frames it, his camera now a tool for truth. Clara Brooks pushes forward. The DOJ task force releases guidelines, mandatory de-escalation, body cams with teeth, funds for community liaisons. Critics call it bureaucracy, supporters call it a start. In Fairhaven, the civilian board meets, Sarah Jones its youngest member. She asks, "How do we make sure no one else bleeds?" Her question, simple but searing, guides their work. Purple marches continue, smaller now but steady, a reminder that justice isn't a sprint. A professor writes, Eleanor's silence wasn't passive, it was a demand to be seen. Her words spark debates: is justice punishing Harper, or rebuilding a system that failed them both? Harper attends a community forum, uninvited, his presence a spark in a dry field. He doesn't speak, just listens as a woman says, "Your baton broke more than glass." He leaves, her words heavy, not with hate, but with truth. He writes a letter to Eleanor, unsent, "I didn't see you. I'm sorry." It's not redemption, just a step into the light of his own failure. Fairhaven, and America, grapple with silence, not Eleanor's, but their own, the years of looking away. The cost is clear, dignity denied, unity fractured. But the purple bands, the marches, the reforms whisper a promise: silence can break, and truth can heal. Eleanor Brooks leaves Fairhaven quietly, her silver sedan gliding out at dawn, no fanfare, no cameras. She's 78, her lavender blouse replaced by a dark shawl, her ring still glinting, a silent emblem of her life's work. She doesn't look back, not because she's bitter, but because her eyes are on the future, a future she's shaped without raising her voice. In Atlanta, she tends her garden, her hands steady despite the scars, physical and otherwise. Clara visits, their silence warm, not heavy. "You changed the world, Mama," Clara says. Eleanor smiles, soft but sure. "No, child. I just reminded it to see. Fairhaven is different now, not healed, but healing." The PD, under its new chief, trains officers in de-escalation, not dominance. The civilian board, named for Eleanor, reviews every stop, Sarah Jones asking questions that keep them honest. A law school in D.C. debates her case, students citing Sarah's words, "Why did no one help?" The question lingers, a challenge to the law's blind spots. Policy shifts ripple, body cams mandatory in 12 states, federal funds tied to reform, but change isn't in paper. It's in Fairhaven's purple banners, in the veteran who nods at Marcus Tate, in the diner where people talk, not whisper, about justice. The nation carries Eleanor's story forward. A documentary, The Woman in Purple, wins awards, not for drama, but for truth. It shows her testimony clips, her ring, her silence, framing her not as a victim but as a force. Purple remains a symbol, not of protest, but of hope, hope that dignity can endure, that unity can rebuild, that justice can grow. In Chicago, a community center opens, its sign reading Eleanor's Place. In Miami, a mural of her face watches over a park. Hashtags fade, but the movement doesn't, rooted in small acts, a teacher's lesson, a mayor's pledge, a child's question. Harper lives quietly, his badge retired, his life simpler but heavier. He volunteers at a shelter, not for forgiveness, but for purpose, learning to see the people he once overlooked. Fairhaven's mural of Eleanor watches him pass, her eyes kind but unyielding. The town, and the nation, stand at a crossroads, not perfect, but awake. Eleanor's legacy isn't a statue or a law, it's a question: do you see me? The answer, carried in purple, in unity, in justice, is a new dawn, fragile but real, where truth lights the way. Eleanor Brooks' story isn't a fairy tale or a tragedy, it's a mirror, held up to a nation that too often looks away. Her silence in that Fairhaven parking lot, her blood on a lavender blouse, her unyielding dignity, sparked a movement that didn't shout but sang, in purple, of justice, unity, and hope. Sarah Jones' courage, Marcus Tate's camera, Clara Brooks' resolve, they wove a tapestry of change, not with vengeance, but with stewardship. Fairhaven, and America, learned that justice isn't a verdict, it's a commitment to see each other fully, to mend what's broken, to stand together. The purple marches, the reforms, the quiet conversations, they're not the end, but the beginning. Eleanor's truth echoes, not in headlines, but in hearts, reminding us that dignity endures, and unity builds a world where no one bleeds unseen.